So we start off with our live action shots of Gutenberg, which is the main place that we're going to be, well, surviving in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It's about 70 kilometers east of Prague, and it came thanks to the discovery of silver ore deposits in the vicinity and its location next to Sedlitz Monastery. The city became rich and had the same powers as the old town of Prague. The wealthiest inhabitants of Gutenberg were the German population, whilst a lower class consisted of mine workers, smelters, mint workers, artisans, and servants. Almost every city dweller had some connections to silver mining, minting coinage, or trading, and it became incredibly wealthy because of it. The treasures of found and mined silver supported the development of other Czech cities and the constructions of new buildings in Prague. Architecture of Gutenberg is due to Wenceslas IV, of course. During his reign, the former timber houses were rebuilt in brick and half timbered, and we actually get to see this sort of Gothic city in the flesh. Some place that I'd actually love to go someday. In fact, I'm going to go into Sky Scanner. But the first shots overlook the gorgeous city and, of course, the many, many churches that are around. Now, one of the main points of Gutenberg is the fact that it is just completely different to Prague, at least in the modern day. You see, I have been to Prague. Prague is a great city, and in fact, I really would like to go back. But my God, is it a tourist trap. For example, as somebody that was going on a trip to Prague solo, I really wanted to see some historical stuff. I ended up spending the whole week on boat parties and in clubs and really cool bars that have dogs running around. Look, you just get sucked into these tourist traps. However, they have those really, really nice waffle cone ice cream things. I don't know much more I can say. I feel like I need to go back and really experience Prague properly. But the castle is goddamn gorgeous, and there'll be a lot of walking up a lot of stairs. And there's the Charles Bridge, which has a lot of people that put locks on it, that everyone comes around and cuts the locks off, because Gutenberg in 1403, though, was somewhat different. They didn't have bars with dogs walking around or boat parties. Although if they were, I think Henry and Hans Capon would definitely want to join in. But we get to see our first look of what the overview of Gutenberg is in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This is our actual next bit of gameplay that we have, and there is a lot of gameplay throughout this video, so make sure you stay and stick around. Of course, looking through the streets, it is our bustling medieval village, or town I should say, with market stalls. We've got fruit, we've got grapes, we've got traders in the background, of course, and the beautiful architecture. Moving on to some of the smithing works, and of course, Henry's new love interest with a... Look, everybody's going to be getting up to absolute havoc within this game, but when you need to have a chill, you never know when you need to go to a bathhouse. It just seems like it's the done thing to do. There's a lot of gorgeous detail within this little live action trailer that has a lot of actual in-game gameplay, ironically. Beggars on the streets, you can see the way that the deformation of the roads is. It looks a lot like the first Kingdom Come, but just the detail is ramped up indefinitely. Of course, the pools and the puddles, it's gorgeous. And we get a little bit of the story gameplay for Henry trying to slit someone's throat. Now, here we have Henry in what I think is the same kind of shot as when he spoke to his father at the end of the first game. No spoilers intended. But of course, he is wearing that armor that we have seen in many, many of the trailers that is speculated to be potentially Hans Capon's armor, or at least similar. We don't know what happens to Hans Capon yet. I'm still holding that he dies, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think he's making it through the game. But them bathing in the water, of course, still using the initial steeds and things that we had in the first game. So maybe this is the start of the traveling part. I think this is very early on in the game. In fact, in the background on top of the hill, we can see the city that has been shown in many of the KCD2 bits and trailers and things like that, with Hans Capon's famous horse with that yellow garment over it. And this is the training ground on the left that I think we've seen in some of the released combat gameplay. At least it looks very, very similar. Walking through the towns, we get a great little look, and then the transition to real-life Gutenberg, which I'm going to be honest, it does look a lot like Prague. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but it looks a hell of a lot like Prague. Now, I'm not going to be going over all the live action stuff because you can go and watch that yourself. It's mostly just funny little bits and pieces of Luke Dale and Tom McKay jammering around within Gutenberg itself. But I do want to focus a little bit more on the gameplay itself. We have another look at a bar and a tavern. Of course, a great attention to detail of people throwing up in buckets and trumpets in anuses. You know, these things happen. Of course, moving back out into the daytime, we have a comparison between the fountains then and now. Not just this, but also another look at people going about doing their jobs. And we do know that you're able to interact with everybody within this game now. A little bit like Red Dead Redemption 2. You can just go up to people and have a nice little chat. I think that's really, really cool because you can get reactions from them and it tells a little bit more of the story. And I'm assuming that it's kind of involved with the way that you can level up Henry as a character, making them more charismatic and being able to talk to people, or at least get away with more before they get angry. Of course, insulting them, greeting them, or maybe even getting something from them or asking them for help. These are all things that you can do within said game itself. And now we've got, well, the technology to go so much further and deeper within the crowd work. I can't wait to see how this comes into fruition in the game itself. Now, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I think, looks so much better than the first game. I think there are a lot of people commenting at how maybe it wasn't that much graphically better, but if you actually go back and do a side-by-side comparison, my God, it is night and day. The first game, whilst it looked decent in 2018, it seems to have aged very, very quickly. I don't know whether it's just the art style that they've gone for, because they've gone for like that realistic look, but it's definitely aged somewhat. So the next cutscenes of the games play out, of course, with some of the antagonists of the game, a little bit of a standoff in one of the Lord's chambers. We do know that the Italian court is going to be a big centerpiece, as it was back in the day for making decisions. Of course, there is a lot of Italians within the game. Whether you enjoy pizza and pasta, that's up to you. But as already said, there is a lot of German influence within Gutenberg. So, that's why the beer is so cheap. Let's be honest. Although I have to say, Czech beer is really good. And it is so cheap. I remember the hostel I was staying at, you could get like a pint for the equivalent of 70 pence. The most I paid for a beer, I think, while I was in Prague was £1.50, maybe even £2, which is insane. Why can't they do that here? It makes me so disappointed for being English. I'm going to be completely honest with you. However, there's plenty of extra stuff to delve into, and I absolutely love the way that they're going about this promotional stuff. But what do we know about its release so far? Well, we know that it's going back into 15th century medieval Europe, and of course we are playing through the eyes of Henry once again. This is going to be a much bigger story than the first game, delving more into the quarrels between lords and kings rather than small bandits, you know, when you get sent to chop off some bandits' ears. There's going to be less of that. Now, it has got full controller support because I'm pretty sure we will be heading on to console as well, which is fantastic. And it's going to be just as bloody and violent as before. Now, there is some extra news as well. On the 7th of November, yesterday, the developers actually showed our first huge bit of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 gameplay. Yes, I don't know how actually I missed this at the time, but on the new Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 channel, they just live streamed the game. And they also called it live stream 1 as well, which I'm assuming means that there's going to be a lot more to come. So let's delve straight into that because, my God, there is a hell of a lot to discover. I have to say, one of the things that KCD 2 seems to be doing really well already is the voice acting is so much better than the first one. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't too bad in the first game, but they've definitely stepped up a notch. And you can just see that by, well, the conversations between characters feel a lot more natural, along with the extra animations as well and the voices. Now, we can have a little look at our persuasion with our speech, charisma, might, and of course everything that really forms the way we can talk to people.
You can now see speech, charisma, and might, and the counterparts, right?
On the bottom, we have the counterparts to each of those, so basically the opposites, so they can work against you if you don't work on your might or your charisma or your speech. For example, you can use your speech in order to persuade people, or you can use coercion in order to manipulate people, and that's kind of a choice that you have to make throughout the game as well, and it's nice to be able to see that in a much more depth. It was something that was a big part of KCD 1, but it kind of felt like it was cast to the wayside because there was a lot of issues that you get out with just a bit of fighting towards the end of the game anyway. But here we can see the choices being actually made.
Councillor, Menhard and Arn
That's a nice thing.
are friends of our good King Wenceslas. That's why they have his charter, isn't it? You don't want to treat someone of that stature like a common criminal or troublemaker.
I think he didn't break any law.
Councillor,
Being able to talk and persuade to people is going to be one of your main ways of getting through the game without dying too much, especially early on. Maybe even focusing on one specific skill is probably going to be a best bet, because you're not going to be a great fighter, and as we know, Henry's stats kind of get somewhat reset. He will be a bit more of a competent fighter and speaker than he was at the start of the first game, but you're still going to have to build up your character the way you want to, and everybody is sort of leveled up as well. So sure, we'll be a better fighter than we were in the first game, but our opponents will be better fighters. We'll have more charisma, but our opponents will be less open to being manipulated, and that's the kind of thing that we're going to have to continue throughout the game. If we skip forward, we can see some natural walking around the town and the city itself, immersing yourself within this medieval world. We can see the blacksmiths, of course. They have completely got their own ways of life. They'll be open at certain times of the day. They'll be closed at other times of the day. So you have to make sure that you're matching up when you want to go and see them. Of course, the animations are absolutely impeccable, and a lot of historical accuracy has been put within this game that I'm so glad that they managed to keep. The game also seems to run pretty well. Now, of course, it's probably going to be on the best system that Warhorse has. But, hey, it does look goddamn gorgeous. People will comment to you on the way. You can reply, and you can greet them, or you can insult them as you go past. And these will completely depend on how they react to you in the future. And you can gain reputation, or you can lose reputation as well. For example, if you tend to go and insult people just as you walk past them, then the guards are going to be a bit more dismissive of you. You're going to be less likely to persuade them later on. Those are really, really nice little touches.
System it was before. The only thing we are changing is that the weapons play differently. So the sword will be still the same sword gameplay as you know from KCD1, but if you as a player say, hey, I didn't enjoy that, that's not my, I don't want to do that, then you can use different weapons that will play differently and therefore give you a different feeling. So it's not easier or dumbed down or something like that. It's just, yeah, we enhanced it, if you want to call it, if you like that word more.
The learning curve is different.
Yes.
Now, this build that they're talking about is actually from a few months ago, so there will be more bugs, improvements in the later versions of it. Of course, it's coming out in February, so it's not too long. You can also see that the people we're talking to in the next cutscene also have the same wear and tear as they did in the last one, and this sort of sticks around because, we had a bit of a fight with them. And, of course, carrying on the story in some of these side quests. So, heading back out to the map, we can see just how big Kuthenberg is, of course, or Kutnahora as it is to this day. And we get to see a little bit of what it's like interacting with a guard that is somewhat suspicious. You can see the rabbit has come up saying we've been halted. And still Stanislav wants to talk to us.
I've got nothing to hide.
Close to the others. It's not safe here.
Everything in order. Carry on.
Now I hope this doesn't happen once we have the stolen sword, because if they found contraband on us, we all know how this is going to end.
So yes, as explained by Toby and the Warhorse developers, there are certain issues that can come around if you end up getting halted during missions where you have to steal weapons, steal swords, and have contraband. But as we walk out into the open, my god, we can see how huge it is. The music is swelling. Music that sounds just as gorgeous as the first game as well. And all this construction is going on throughout as you're playing the game. And a little bit like in the first Kingdom Come, you remember the monastery that was being built that went through different stages as you started playing the game as well. And I think a similar thing is going to be happening here as well. But wow, it is absolutely huge. There is so much to explore within this game. It is a map that is twice the size of what we've had before because, well, there are two huge maps. As mentioned, Toby's talking about the smoke coming from the mines because there are some slightly underground areas to explore as well in some missions. And we have seen a little bit of that when it comes to the Teresa DLC within the first Kingdom Come. We went into some mines and did some searching underground. However, yeah, there's going to be loads of mine shafts that we can explore because Kutnahora is a silver city of mining. I don't know if you noticed there, by the way, I might edit back, but as we go through the gate, there was a guard that was talking to you from the little box above the gate. We couldn't see him, but you could hear him speaking to you and sort of warning you when you come in.
Maybe for stealing.
Careful. God is punishing us for
Oh, there you go. For stealing or also questing and so on. So this will be looking for us or checking us out is one of the guards here. But we have to go down here because this is the sword fighting school.
So we are in the night time now, and this is the first bit of gameplay that we've really got, that sneaking around. Now, the reason that you're carrying a torch is a little bit like the first game. if you're not carrying a torch around at nighttime, guards will halt you and they'll be suspicious because why would you not be carrying a torch around? That's what you should be doing. It's kind of the rules within this town. But it means that you are going to be spotted. So if you want to do nefarious activities, you put that torch away. And, you know, if you are caught just randomly walking around, you will be halted, but you were less likely to be caught in the first place. A nice little touch that they're bringing over from the first game as well. So, the next part of this mission is to go to the armory and steal a sword. This is once again a side quest. You can see that indicated at the top, the little B. Much like the first game, means it's a B quest, a side quest that you've been doing. Now, we are trespassing. We have the little icons that pop up on the screen. So, if we're caught, we're going to be in deep, deep trouble. So, sneaking around is very, very important. I think those are the swords over on the wall, possibly. But you can just do this without missions. You can just sneak into places, steal swords, and you can sell them. But you've got to make sure that you're not selling swords that are too close to where you stole them from, because people will be looking for them. So if you're going to steal stuff, sell it far away in a different town. Oh my god, there's actually a person there. The least observant human being on planet Earth. Jesus Christ.
By the way, the reason why I was going out, because there was this dude standing around in the room, which I was a tiny little bit afraid that he will spot us. But I'm too good of a master thief here, so let's go out.
There is that case that you can just sneak around people and they won't notice if you are stealthy enough. And Toby already mentioned that this version of Henry is a higher level character. But as mentioned, those knights, now if they halt you, they'll see the sword on you. But there's a chance they could just do random searches. They shouldn't, because he's got a torch out, he's not running around, and he's not acting suspicious. But if the small chance happens that he does get searched, he's going to be in deep trouble with that stolen sword. And that will directly affect your reputation. You go to prison or even be killed if you try and fight back. Now we get our first great look of a fully functional inventory. And my god, I love the lighting they put on it. Look at Henry on the right. It's so much more cinematically detailed as well. Now it does look a lot like the last game. You can see how you have the different layers, where it's the gambesons or the undershirts, and of course the gloves or the gauntlets, that kind of thing. They all layer on top of each other, so there's so much more detail. And these will all be worn down over time. They'll need repairing. They can change how much armor you have, how quiet you are, what shoes you're wearing. So these all have to be taken into consideration when you're choosing what you're going to be wearing, or what at least you can wear, or what you decide to sell. Now, buffs also are a big factor within this game, but I'll let Toby explain a lot of how that works.
We have the different skills, of course. Here you go, survival, thievery, all the good stuff, and the missile weapons, the marksmanship, and so on. All the good things. Combos are in there, and everything you like. Kuttenberg, people of the forest.
And there was the question in the chat about the polearms, and you can have them in the inventory and just carry them around and use them as regular weapons.
Which is something a lot of people wanted. You can craft stuff. You can have the codex as well, as always. So as I said, there's a lot of cool things. Again, this is a build from August, so this is not final quality, of course. We will expand on a lot of things, we will change a lot of things, but I think all in all gives you already a good first touch, impression of the game.
Now, in the next stage, there is a tournament that we have to prove ourselves in, and we get a great look at some of the extra combat within the game. Now, there is a tournament section within the first game as well, but this is going to be somewhat different, as we'll find out. Starting off, we sort of stay on the outside, and you can see the rabbit is at the top. I'm assuming what that means is there's combat going on nearby that we're not involved with. I love it. People enjoying the tournament, having a chill, and obviously you can just take the things that are on the side as well. Lovely, lovely stuff. But soon enough, it is our chance to get into the battle, and of course, that combat system is back. Now, as far as I'm aware, it is very similar to the first one. Parrying is a little bit easier. Blocking, riposting is a little bit more accessible to people, and of course, the sound design is incredibly satisfying. And already the enemy has yielded pretty easy. Onto the next round as well. Now, we can see in the bottom right that Savior Schnapps that will be coming back. The drink that you can have in order to save your game. Now, you can still save the game if you sleep as well, but that's how you save your game as you're just running around. Now, this was a controversial point of the last title. I think a lot of people modded it out. I personally didn't mod it out because I wanted to be able to save my games whenever. But it is kind of another thing about leaning into that more realistic RPG. However, me personally, I think you just make a hardcore mode where that is a point, or just have a regular mode. I think that option should be there for players, but it is coming back for this game as we have been confirmed. All in all, this is some really, really great stuff, and I'm going to leave a link in the description because whilst this video isn't too long, the entire thing is about 2 and a bit hours of extra gameplay, so there's plenty to pick out and discover. But we are getting closer and closer to the release, and my god, can I not wait for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. It is absolutely incredible.